Okay. Welcome to the September 3rd Judiciary and Administration Committee. Chairperson Andrea Richmond is excused, so I'll be your chair. And Council Member Jessica Olson is also excused. We're going to jump around in the order a little bit. First, I want to take 19-0906. Go ahead, Council President.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to make a motion to refer that for 60 days at the request of the mayor and the planning department. It's not, or the inspection department. It's not complete, and they would like a 60-day referral, and I so move.
Okay. Do we have a second? Councilmember Weaver. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Chair's an aye. 60-day referral passes. Okay, next we're going to take 19-0825, an ordinance to create section 115-185 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse, establishing the Bridgeview Neighborhood Center Zone Overlay District. We do have one person registered to speak, and we have one person in opposition of the legislation only. And that is Beth Lewis, and registered to speak is Stephen R. Lewis. So I would take a motion for a public hearing. Councilman Weaver, Councilmember Gall, all in favor? Aye. Chair's an aye. We now are having a public discussion. Mr. Lewis, if you want to come up. If you're the only speaker, so you would have 15 minutes, right? Oh, that's right. It's 15 total. You would only have 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yes. Is that too loud?
No.
Okay. Anyway, just to introduce myself, you already know my name. My wife is back there. That's Beth Lewis. Anyway, we have an objection to the overlay district. And basically, we have already registered this with the city clerk. And what we did, we put down for the following reasons is, if, word for word, if this zoning change has any negative effect on our rights to keep our home where it already exists, then I most certainly do object. And both myself and Beth put in individual objections. Anyway, if you can't really, if somebody had a response to something like that, and it's murky, and it's probably, doesn't meet the criteria of our objection. If this overlay is a really great thing for this area, then it should be a pretty good item for the rest of La Crosse immediately, La Crosse wide. But I don't think that anybody would really want that throughout La Crosse, because we don't know what's in this whole thing. It's a black box. And it's safe for us just to desire the current zoning that's in place now. Everything has gone fairly smoothly that way. We live behind Shopko, shopping strip. So we really don't care if somebody gets a variance and changes Shopko or does anything with the property. That'd be great. We're all for that. We just don't want the overlay district. It's, like I said, it's a black box. Not sure how it's going to work out for something of this city this size. I don't know of any other cities that have something like that this size, like Mankato. They don't have anything like this. So, and basically, we're concerned that this might eminent domain our property and, get us condemned, because you start to look at something like this with all these blended zoning going on with the overlay, then it's possible that we'd get shifted right out of our home. So basically, we've been through this before with Exit 3. I spoke before 7 years ago in front of the council, and I was opposed to that too. And anyway, just to reiterate in closing, if this zoning change has any negative effect on our rights to keep our home where it already exists, then I most certainly do object. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Anybody? I'll take a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Gall, seconded by Weaver. All in favor? Aye. I guess I have a question, Jason. Was this at city planning? I wasn't able to attend. I was at the library board meeting.
Yes, it was. The Planning Commission recommended approval.
Okay. Sure. Here, go ahead, Councilman Newmeister.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jason, I know we had a nice lengthy conversation at the neighborhood association meeting on it. Were you able to, I guess they had a lot of questions, and were we able to identify and help them out with any of those? And maybe you can give us a brief history of why this is going in front of us and the benefits that it would give us, and maybe issues that it might give us as well, if there are any, please.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Newmeister, Mr. Chair. This program started as a result of recognizing that this area of the city has its challenges. We've got a vacant retail site. We also have a complexity of zoning when you look at the area in general, from Palace Street all the way up to the interstate, and from US 53 over to the railroad. There's a variety of different zoning districts, and one of the things that cities face in general are lack of what are referred to as entitlement sites. So these are where a developer assembles land and then proposes redevelopment. Those can take years and years to assemble because of the complexities of not just regulation, but also land acquisition and things. We also have a tight housing market, and in a way, this sort of deregulatory overlay is a hedge against sprawl, because it would help level the playing field a little bit with regard to urban infill, advantaging urban infill or infill within the city. In sort of direct response to the gentleman's concern about would this inhibit their right to use the property as it is, it would not. The underlying zoning of single-family residential prevails unless they're approached by a developer, a buyer, who buys them out and assembles over an acre of land. If they assemble over an acre, then the overlay district comes into effect. And one of the things that you brought up at the neighborhood association meeting is that we have this other safety net, so to speak, in the ordinance that says that even if they assemble over an acre of land, they have to abide by city plans. And the only area, we've only got 2 plans in place that cover this area: the US 53 corridor plan, which largely shows how redevelopment could occur along 53, where Bridgeview Plaza is. And then in the neighborhood areas behind Bridgeview Plaza out to Hamilton Street, we have the comprehensive plan, which shows single-family residential. So for a developer to go in and buy a block of residential property, they'd have to first go through a master planning process, engage the public, and have a willing neighborhood to want to replan their area. Only then would they be able to come in and use the overlay district zoning. And the overlay district zoning only it basically allows more leniency in 3 different areas. One is land use. So instead of it being exclusive to whatever the underlying zoning district is, like single family or commercial, if you assemble over an acre and you abide by the city's plans, you can have mixed use. You can have either local business district uses or residential uses, or a combination of the two. Secondly, it gives them flexibility with parking, because we know some areas are over-designed for parking, like Bridgeview Plaza, where you have, in mixed use, you have the opportunity to share parking especially if you have residential and commercial, because nighttime demand for residential, daytime demand for commercial. And the third area of flexibility is just the zoning setbacks, the area standards, but the superseding area standards like vision triangles and stormwater requirements where they have to have green space would still prevail. They wouldn't be able to just go right up to the lot lines, but they would have more flexibility in how they design the space. So those are really the only three things that this is doing, but it in no way sets the stage for eminent domain. I mean, I don't know that there was a time that we've used eminent domain on single-family homes, except for maybe if there was a road going through or something like that. But this wouldn't have, in my estimation, wouldn't have any relationship to eminent domain.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Anybody else have any questions for anybody? Mr. Gall?
I have no further questions at this time, but before we discuss it any further, if anyone has any further questions or discussion, I'd like to make a motion to put this, to move this forward. So I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Moved by Gall, seconded by Weaver. Any other discussion? Mr. Neumeister?
Thank you. This one's been difficult for me, especially because I understand their concerns. But we have had meetings on this, few, and I think it's been in the process for quite some time working on this. And I've really looked into it, and I don't see why their concerns are legitimate, and obviously they have those concerns. I don't see how the possibility of that actually taking place could happen, but, things happen. I guess I can't guarantee anything. But as difficult it is for me, and I don't like any homeowner feel like they're being forced to do something they don't want. I do think this is not a bad thing at all, and I actually think it's going to enhance our ability to hopefully do something with Bridgeview Plaza and some other areas that we have had some difficulties on. And being that this was really driven by Councilmember Richmond, I'm going to respect her wishes as well, and I also will be in favor of it. But I do want us to make sure that we think of, obviously we do, but the neighbors and stuff, and that's one of the reasons I asked if it still had to go through the entire process. They don't want a big, they don't want somebody to buy a block and then they put a big apartment building across the street from them. So I think what we're doing, we have the guardrails, and I think we just need to hold them to them, and everything will work out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair's an aye. This is goes to next week, City Council meeting next Thursday, Mr. and Mrs. Lewis, and the vote is 5-0 to approve. Thank you. Next, where we have some people here, let's go to uh, 19-1134, application of Uno Venti LLC for a conditional use permit allowing permission to apply for a accommodation Class B beer and liquor license at 122 King Street. Chris Rodriguez is here in favor of the legislation, but only here to answer questions. Moved by Neumeister. Seconded by Weaver. He beat you. Right, that'd be subject to compliance. Okay, and so there's no discussion, no questions for the, okay. I call for a vote. All in favor? Anybody opposed? That moves forward again to the next Thursday night's meeting. Okay. 19-1155, request of Girard Corporation for an exception to multifamily housing design standards, allowing a waiver of driveway and landscape buffer standards for the new development project at 1002-08, 1010 and 1016-20 Vine Street, and 234 226-228 10th Street North. And this is scheduled for a public hearing. Philip Addis is here in favor of the legislation, but only here to answer questions. So I would ask either for a motion, or does anybody have discussion? Do you have a discussion for Mr. Addis?
I actually have a discussion for Jason, if you can tell us what happened.
Planning, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item was recommended for approval for both waivers.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Neumeister, second by Councilmember Kalo. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Chairs and aye. Passes 5-0. This also will move to next Thursday night's council meeting. Thank you. Now I'm going to jump down to, because we do have somebody here, I'm going to jump down to 19-1254. Various license applications pursuant to Chapters 4, 6, and or 10 of the La Crosse Municipal Code for the remainder of license period 2019 and 20. Peter Beard is here in favor of the legislation, but only here to answer questions. Motion to approve by Council Member Weaver, subject to compliance. Second by Council President Gall. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Chairs and aye. Passes 5-0. Moves on to next Thursday's council meeting. Okay. Now we'll go back to the top under old business, 19-0574, an amendment ordinance to amend various sections of Chapter 10, Article X of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse regarding outdoor food standards and mobile food units. This was referred from the June 2019 meeting. Any discussion or a motion? Councilmember Kalo?
Very briefly, there were some meetings and there's just 2 slight changes, and they were all agreed upon, and at least for now, everyone's happy, so I would move to approve this.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Kalo.
I'm going to second that, but I'm assuming that is to approve it as it's amended and posted in Legistar as of this evening's meeting? Okay. Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Council President Gall. Any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion? Chairs and aye. This passes 5-0, and we'll go to council next Thursday. Okay, 19-1156, an ordinance to amend subsection 115-110 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse, transferring certain property from the single-family district to the traditional neighborhood district / general, allowing mixed use or multifamily at 1222 Denton Street. And it's scheduled for a public hearing, but nobody is here or signed up to talk. So I will... Moved by Council President Gall, subject to planning recommendations, seconded by Council Member Weaver. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Chairs and aye. It passes 5-0. 19-1157, an ordinance to amend subsection 115-110 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse, transferring certain property from the planned development district general to the public / semi-public district, allowing the combining of lots for continued use of community garden at 1109 St. James Street and 901 George Street. This is also open for public hearing, but nobody signed up. Moved by Neumeister, seconded by Kalo. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Chairs and aye. This passes also 5-0 to next Thursday's meeting. 19-1158, an ordinance to amend subsection 115-110 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse, transferring certain property from the single-family district and residence district to the traditional neighborhood district, general allowing use as commercial, mixed use, or multifamily development at 618 Jackson Street and 1004 7th Street South. Again, it's up for public hearing, but there's nobody here signed up, so I would take a motion. Moved by Council President Gall, subject to staff recommendation, and seconded by Council Member Weaver. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Chair's an aye. Passes 5-0. 19-1159, application of MJA1 Hospitality, LLC, DBA Kramer's Bar and Grill for the expansion of alcohol beverage license for special event at 1123 3rd Street South on September 27th, 2019. Moved by Council President Gall, subject to compliance, seconded by Council Member Weaver. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Chair's an aye. Passes 5-0. 19-1175, an ordinance to amend Table 11-13, Para 1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse regarding allowed sign characteristics. Moved by Council President Gall, seconded by Council Member Weaver. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Chair's an aye. Moves forward 5-0 to next Thursday. And last but not least, 19-1176, an ordinance to amend Section 44-71 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse concerning the speed limits on connecting highways. Moved by Council President Gall, seconded by Council Member Weaver. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gall.
Just in case, I don't know if anybody has any question about this, but what this does is I have worked with the engineering and the different departments, and the area between Ward Avenue and I think it's Broadmoor, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember right off the top of my head. Anyway,
Broadview.
Is that what it is? Broadview. This lowers the speed limit in that section from 40 to 35 miles an hour. This is in the area that's going to be they're going to be putting the new roundabout in at Ward Avenue, and it's time to start slowing that traffic coming down that street. They're going to try and make some improvements to the crosswalks there by Aptive and by the bus station, but everyone involved admitted that it was basically not an easy task to accomplish with the speeds coming off of South Avenue onto Ward Avenue, or South Avenue onto that section. So they researched this and recommended it could have went down to 30, but 35 seems to be adequate for this at this time, and that's what's behind this.
Thank you, Mr. Gall. Chair would like to note that when I made the motion about Losey Boulevard, we had a room full of people, and here you do Mormon Cooley, and nobody's here. So I think we already had a motion by you two, right? Under the radar. Good for you. Good for you. Any other discussion? Good. Councilmember Newmeister.
Thank you, Chair. First off, wonderful job tonight. My second question is, then are we raising the speed on, well, maybe not. Forget it. Just questioning.
Oh, my Councilmember Gall.
No. First, the interesting part about this is, as so many of the things that we run across, when they were looking at reducing this, and I worked with Matt Gallagher and the engineering department on that, what they found is that the underlying speed limit on this section of road all the way out and a number of other ones in the city is actually 35. And it's raised by ordinance to 40. And what this does is kind of goes in a backwards and precludes that part of it being raised to 40, so it automatically falls back to the 35. But there's a number of stretches of road in the city that are like that, and Losey happened to be one of them. So it's just an interesting, part of this that I thought they didn't know it either until they started digging in it. But that was the end result. So.
Thank you, Mr. Gall. Any other discussion? I will call for a vote. All in favor? Chairs and I, it passes 5-0 to next Thursday night's meeting. I think that is all, so I will ask for a call for an adjournment. There you go. Council President Gall, seconded by Councilmember Weaver. We are adjourned. Thank you.